diagnosis of ADHD is made as a collaboration between a doctor, a parent, and a child's school teacher. The first step in the process is to make sure that the child meets the standard diagnostic criteria for ADHD. The criteria focus on specific characteristics of inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. Some examples of these criteria are failing to pay close attention to details or making careless mistakes in schoolwork, difficulty organizing tasks, being easily distracted by things around them, or fidgeting with their hands and feet or squirming in their seat. To meet criteria, the symptoms that cause the problems have to be present before age 7 and have to be seen in 2 or more settings. That means if a child exhibits those symptoms at home but not at school, or at soccer practice but not at home, then they wouldn't necessarily meet the criteria for ADHD. There also has to be significant impairment in their functioning in those settings that's not accounted for by another type of disorder, such as a mood disorder or an anxiety disorder or learning disabilities.
Well, let me ask you a quick question. Are you one of those folks that wonders why ADHD medications appear at times so unpredictable? I mean, do you wonder why there's so much public outcry about how the medications are being given and how they're being used and so on? Well, let me give you 3 important quick answers to the many questions that are out there that perhaps will focus your thinking. First of all, let me bring this one important observation up to your consideration. Last time I checked, the mind was connected to the body. Do you agree with that point? That's heavy. Now let me get to this second point. Medications have to pass through the body to get to the synaptic brain. Now that's another pretty basic answer that we have to consider. And when you actually start thinking about it, you know that way too many, most practitioners actually ignore those points. They don't pay attention to them. And the third point is that metabolism significantly matters. If we don't know what the body is doing to the medication that passes through the body to get to the mind, we aren't going to have a clue about how to predict what those medications will do.
There is medication used for children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and there are 2 main types of medication that's generally used. One of them is methylphenidate, which is sometimes called Ritalin, which is now used either in short-acting, lasting about 4 hours, or there are longer-acting products that are around that last for between 8 and 12 hours. This means if your child has medication, they can take it in the morning, and it carries them through school, but it may run out towards tea time, so some children need to have an extra dose, a tablet when they come home, to tie them through when they're doing homework in the evening. There's also another sort of medication called atomoxetine or Strattera, and this is taken continuously. So the child takes it every morning and it lasts over 24 hours, so you don't go the highs and lows. Some children seem to find one sort of medication better, others find another medication. So getting advice from the child and adolescent psychiatrist and working with them to monitor your signs and symptoms and working with school as well to see which helps. Your child will then be given the appropriate medication. This may need assessing over a period of time to get it right, but certainly with your help and with schools and feedback from the psychiatrist, your child, if they do require to be on medication, can be on the right medication.
One of the questions that has been around for a long time is whether ADHD is best thought of as a genetic condition. And part of the reason for many people believing it is a genetic condition is studies that have shown that ADHD type behaviors run in families and are more common in identical compared to non-identical twins. However, these types of studies cannot disentangle what is environmental causes and what is genetic causes. The best way to find out if there are any genetics associated with ADHD is to do genome-wide molecular studies. And many of these have been done, and they have consistently failed to find any genes associated with ADHD. Recently, there was a claim made by a British study that they had found clear evidence of increased levels of genetic abnormalities in those who could be diagnosed as having ADHD. However, when you actually examine the paper, it becomes apparent that their claims are not only incorrect, but they've actually put forward even more evidence of the opposite. So in their paper, they claimed that there were 14% of children who were diagnosed with ADHD who had these genetic abnormalities. However, also 7% in the control group also had these abnormalities in their genes. And the abnormalities were bits of genes that were either repeated, in other words, they were extra bits of genes that shouldn't be there, or they were missing. So if we just take that at face value, that means that 7% of children with ADHD over and above the normal population would have these genetic abnormalities. However, they also found that those who were labeled with a learning difficulty or an intellectual disability, 36% of them had these genetic abnormalities, which is a much stronger association. When they removed the number who had learning difficulties from the sample with ADHD, they were left with 11% of children who had these genetic abnormalities, which compared to the control group, if you remember that 7% of the control group, in other words normal children, have these genetic abnormalities, this only leaves now 4% of ADHD over and above the normal levels.
It is estimated that there are currently thousands of additives in our food supply. Some are good, like supplementing foods with vitamin B12, for example. Others you have to weigh the risks and benefits, like the nitrites in processed meats. Yes, they may increase your risk of cancer, but as preservatives, they decrease your risk of dying from botulism. Then there are additives used for purely cosmetic purposes, like food dyes, used to provide color to colorless and fun foods. According to the FDA, without color additives, colas wouldn't be brown, margarine wouldn't be yellow, and mint ice cream wouldn't be green. Heaven forbid! According to the FDA, color additives are now recognized as an important part of practically all processed foods we eat. Because we are eating a lot more processed foods, we're now getting 5 times more food dyes in our daily diet than we were 50 years ago. 15 million pounds of food dyes are used every year in foods, drugs, and cosmetics in the United States. I always wondered why they called them like blue number 1 instead of their actual chemical names in the list of ingredients. Then, after reading this report from the Center for Science and the Public Interest, I realized why. Here's a box of Kraft mac and cheese. It has yellow number 5. Do you think people would be as likely to buy this product if instead of quote-unquote yellow number 5, it said this instead on the label? This list of approved colors used to be longer, but different dyes keep getting banned, including violet number 1, which ironically was the color used in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's meat inspection stamp, so they may have been actually further cancering up the meat. Years ago, I featured this landmark study, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled food challenge, published in perhaps the most prestigious medical journal in the world, showing artificial colors increased inattentiveness, impulsivity, and hyperactivity among young children. So what happened? Well, the British government said, OK, there's no health benefits to these dyes, only health risks, so it's a no-brainer. The British government mandated that food manufacturers remove most of the artificial food colors from their products. In fact, the whole European Union said, fine, you want to continue to use these dyes, then you have to put a warning label stating, look, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. So many international food companies have taken them out of their products in Europe, but they continue to use them in the same products here in the US, where similar regulations are not currently in place. Why not? The FDA put together a committee that looked at that same landmark study and conceded that the food additives may have resulted in changes in behavior, but the type of treatment effects reported in the study, even though the investigators referred to increases in levels of hyperactivity, were not the disruptive, excessive hyperactivity behaviors of ADHD, but more likely the type of overactivity exhibited occasionally by the general population of preschool and school-age children. To which a distinguished toxicologist responded, "Look, low-level lead exposure may only shave off a few IQ points off of kids, but just because they'd still fall within the normal range doesn't mean it's okay to expose kids to it." In fact, now looking back, the lead in leaded gas may have been causing brain cancer and even urban violence. The aggravated assault rate in cities around the U.S. seemed to follow the lead levels in the air pretty closely. Anyways, CSPI continues to call on the FDA to ban food dyes and for food companies to voluntarily stop using them. Good luck with that. In the meanwhile, some researchers recently suggested a way to see which food colors may be damaging your children's brain, advising parents to test artificial colors by purchasing little bottles of food dye at the grocery store. Then have your child do some homework or something, and then have them chug down an artificial color and see if it affects their handwriting, reading, math at 30 minutes, then at 90 minutes, then at 3 hours. Also, see if they get irritable later, have problems sleeping. Then, if that's okay, you try even more to see if that will mess up their mind. If I may offer an alternate suggestion, maybe we shouldn't be buying our kids processed crap in the first place.
Be really quick. I'm just cleaning where we're gonna do the vaccines. It's 5 vaccines that he's getting.
5 vaccines.
Yes, he's getting the polio.
Look at Mommy say, I'm going to be brave.
I'm going brave.
You're going to be brave. Yes, you are.
Just look at Mommy. I'm gonna do the vaccine. You ready? Yeah. Okay, don't move.
Wait, let him hold his soldier. You want to hold your soldier?
Okay.
No, I want you to hold my hand.
Okay, I'll hold your hand.
Okay, and look at Mommy over there.
Look at Mom. Look at the camera.
Don't look at here. Don't
It's
move.
okay.
It's 1, 2, 3. All done. Good
Good job. See?
Okay.
Yay, you did it.
Don't look over here.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. That one hurt, huh?
No, we're gonna do.
Look at Mom. Look at Mom.
Oh no!
on the other armor, okay? We'll do really
Oh, baby.
done.
It's okay. Almost finished. Almost finished, baby. Look, I'll finish. Okay, last one. You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. It's okay.
That's it.
And you get a prize now. You get a prize.
All done. So you're good for school now. You're going to school now.
Now you get to go to school.
Yay.
Say yay.